The future of roofing in the state of Florida. Gonna get into it today. Talk about what the recent changes are, what it means to our industry, what's happening, what's going on. If you're joining me for the first time, my name is Brad Hogan. I'm a business guy here in Central Florida, and this is season 3, episode 11. Talking about the changes here in the state of Florida. And I'm proud to say Florida is the standard when we go to national. There are a lot of states that do not require a roofing contracting license. Here in the state of Florida, we require a license. We have a very strong association. Anytime I'm talking to someone that's either in the roofing industry or even the trades industry of any kind, whether I'm consulting with them, I'm actually part of the company, or even if they're just a friend, I strongly encourage you to get involved in the association. Even if you're not in the state of Florida, get involved in your association. And the bottom line is, let's just build a better roof. Let's build a better roof for the homeowner. Here in Florida, as we have all these hurricanes and all these wind events, it's very important that we build a better roof. And I want to talk about where we've been in the last 5 years and where we're at now. I'm going to talk about a couple different things. Number one, building a better roof. We know that low pressure makes a roof fail. And we've made updates every year here in the state of Florida. We have quite a bit of tile, ASCE 7-16, now ASCE 7-22. That is all about low pressure. And it talks about the ridge on a roof. It talks about the hip on a roof where two roof lines come together. And we know that's where the failure is and what we're doing to address that. If you're a homeowner out there, you want to ask your roofing contractor what they're doing about low pressure and make sure they know and they're up to speed on that. That's kind of the building aspect of the roof, what we know. Talk about insurance. That's really changing our industry. So if we back up 5 years ago, the way legislation read here in the state of Florida is you could go back 3 years to a hurricane date, and you could go back 12 months if it was not a hurricane. So if we had a hail event or a wind event, we could go back 12 months. And then that changed, and then that changed. And where we're at today, just to kind of bring you up to date, is it's 12 months. It's 12 months for everything. And I know right here in Central Florida, 2 days ago became 1 year since the last event that we had, the wind event, hurricane event. And right now, there's nothing to go back to your insurance company for. If you have not already opened litigation and you've got a damaged roof, that's on you. That's the big change in legislation. Why did that come about? Well, there's several reasons. Cost of homeowners insurance was going up. It needed to be controlled. That's what our legislator felt. They get a lot of lobbyists, attorneys for the insurance industry polling in one direction, and of course you've got opposing counsel, which is basically homeowners, saying, well, that's not fair. I pay my insurance premiums. This should be covered. It's right here in my policy. And how does that all get worked out? Well, where we're at is you got 12 months to file a claim. And the other major change is the attorney for the homeowner can no longer collect fees unless it's a hurricane from the insurance company. So what you're going to see, and this happens in many different things, not just roofing, but as the legislation takes the teeth out of the deal, meaning saying, hey, attorneys, you can't get paid by opposing counsel, even if you win. Well, what attorney is going to take that case? They've got to come to the homeowner and say, hey, I've got to take 30%, 40% if we win this of your check. So now you're reduced 30 or 40%. Or If we don't win this case, maybe homeowner, you've got to pay me. What's that look like going forward? There will just be a lot more law firms say, we don't want to go in that space. There will be some out there, but it's going to be few and far between. The other thing that's changing in roofing is just talk about what's happening right now. We were in committee, meaning codes committee, as well as governance committee, talking about what's happening in legislation here in the last couple weeks. And the hot topic, I got it from me right here from the attorney. It's a memo. We discussed Dade County. That's where Miami is located, within Dade County. There's a Dade County heat ordinance, and there's a stakeholder opposition letter that's out there. What is this thing? What is the Dade County heat ordinance? Well, basically, and this thing's in its infancy, it is not legislation at this point. It's being discussed, and there are several groups pushing that there needs to be a shade and water break 10 minutes out of every hour because it's so hot outside. And not just for roofers, but this applies to anyone working outside, etc. And we know as roofers, I can tell you myself, we give our crews all the breaks they need. Now, they get up there in a flow on the roof, and as long as they're okay, if anybody feels like they're not okay, take a break. There's tons of water on site, and find a shade tree if you need to come off the roof, etc. And they are taking breaks periodically throughout the day, taking a lunch break, taking a break whenever they need it, whether it's restroom break or heat, shade, water, whatever it is. We got Gatorade on site too, to put electrolytes back in their body. But what this does, what this ordinance will do is it's going to mandate that this be done and documented. And what if the crew doesn't want a break? I know how I am when I'm working. I'm probably different than most people in that I do not eat breakfast, and I typically do not eat anything until after noon. What if it was mandatory for me to take a break at breakfast time? I start at 5:30. I mean, am I supposed to take a break at 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock for breakfast? Do I have to take a break at 12 or 1 for lunch? Well, I'm not hungry. I don't want to eat. What's that look like? And the problem here, the issue with this, and the reason why I bring this subject up is it does not play well in the media at all. What am I supposed to do? Argue that my guys, they don't need a break? I would be annihilated in the media. You guys may crush me on this video, telling me how hot it is and how hard the guys work. I get that. If they need a break, take a break. I'm all for it. But to mandate it and make it mandatory and then it's got to be documented, I just think it's a problem. I think it's a slippery slope we're going down. And there are some groups out there that are really pushing this. But that's what's going on in the state of Florida and roofing and how it's changing, etc. We're just out here trying to build a better roof. And if you guys are looking for a roofer, find one that belongs to your association. The reason is they're going to know about these recent updates and the changes in order to build you a better roof. If you're a roofer, get involved in your association so we can build a better roof for all homeowners. And you know about these changes. When people are working on them, we've got committees and groups and super smart guys in there, a lot smarter than me, in there working on these changes and studying wind tunnel tests, etc., and failure rates. Hey, lean on them, take a page out of their playbook, and build a better roof for your homeowner. So the other thing that's prevalent in roofing is solar. I feel like solar is here, and I have not been a big advocate of solar in the current state. And the reason why, I do so many repairs where solar is causing a leak on the roof. But we have to evolve. I mean, for heaven's sakes, we're in the Sunshine State. And I feel like sometimes some companies The pricing is based on whatever the consumer can afford, and maybe it's whatever they can finance. The margins on solar is just crazy, and I see a difference. I've seen homeowners get 3 different quotes. One quote's at $80,000, one quote's at $50,000, and the other quote's at $30,000. Well, what's the difference? Well, what they're selling is basically a down payment and then a monthly payment. And I think it's the society we live in. How much down, how much a month? I know that's the way we buy houses and cars and so forth as a society. But where we're going is this solar is going to evolve. It's getting better. The installers are getting better. This price will correct itself. And I believe it's absolutely the future. It's inevitable. So there are some other options out there. You know, Tesla is in the market and they've had some issues. Wow, what a beautiful roof. I mean, if you haven't looked it up, look it up. And the deal is when they talk about a Tesla roof, the whole thing's solar. Well, not actually. Some of those, while it all looks like a solar shingle, some of those are what they call dummy shingles. They really are not projecting solar, but the point is it's a solar roof. Extremely expensive right now. What a cool look. But they're also having some issues. They're having some engineering issues and they're getting those worked out. No doubt they'll get them worked out. And there will be other players coming into the market. Some of the shingle manufacturers are now jumping on the bandwagon. It's obviously the future of roofing. I'm keeping an eye out. I'm curious. I'm interested in seeing what happens. But if you've got a good company as far as honesty and they're good installers, that's what you're looking for if you're doing solar. And just know what your exit strategy is too. I hear from my friends that are in the title business, it's frequent that a sale will happen with a home and the sellers get to the closing table and there's a $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 payoff on their solar. And they're telling the title company, well, that's transferable. Well, the buyer doesn't want to accept the transfer. They don't want the panels. What do? There's got to be some thought, and there can be some realtors out there, oh, that's disclosed, and we go through all that. I'm sure you do. There must be some cases where some people don't, or maybe they're not thinking of that. But it's just things to watch out for. Solar's here. It's the future, etc. And probably the newest thing within roofing, and it's not brand new, we just see it a little more, would be the composite shingle. It's a plastic, if you will. It's a composite, and they can make that look like a tile. They can make it look like an actual shingle. They make it look like anything. A little more expensive even than your normal tile, than your clay tile, can be a lot more expensive than your concrete tile. In metal, we've got metal roofing. It's the fastest growing sector within the roofing industry worldwide. Whether you're in Asia or whether you're in Florida, fastest growing sector is metal. And just know the different types of metal, different types of finish, etc. Won't go into all those. But we've had metal roofs for a while. Now we've got stone-coated steel. And stone-coated steel, again, it's made to look like a shake shingle or a tile, or unless you're right up on top of it, you can't tell. If you're typically a typical street distance, you can't tell that that's stone-coated steel rather than an actual tile. But those are just some of the things that are changing. That's the future of roofing. You still need a quality roof. It's one of the most important things you have. It's protecting your family and all the valuables. Make sure you pick a good quality roofer that's selling a quality product. The future of roofing. So Surfside's a big deal. Surfside is the condominium that failed in Miami. That's the one that collapsed, that fell down. And that's a huge deal that's affecting the future of roofing as well as everything else. We spend a lot of time talking about it. And what's happened with the failure of Surfside is all condominium complexes are going to be required to have an engineering inspection and certification. And it's mandated by law that these things be addressed, maintenance issues, things be updated, etc. Right now, I'm a little leery about going into a condominium that's not new for that reason. There could be very significant assessments in order to bring that building or those buildings, your complex, up to date. And we were talking in our last meeting, there is a condominium complex here in the state of Florida, $300,000 assessment per unit to get that thing all up to date, maintenance. Know where you're at. As it pertains to roofs, we bid on these, we quote them on a weekly basis for apartment complexes or HOAs that are maybe townhomes or individually owned. We quote them all the time. And what's so frustrating is we put on a high quality product. It's labor, product, and warranty. We have a great warranty. We've got a high level product. We've got great crews. And frequently it's the low price. Now, I'm not crying that we don't get any of them, because we do. We do get several of those bids. But frequently we'll lose one, and what we've lost it to is the low bidder. We're in a situation right now where 4 years ago, I quoted 21 buildings at a complex here in Central Florida. They went with the low bid. They're now in a lawsuit suing the roofer. Roofer's out of state. Turns out he doesn't have insurance. They're having a hard time recouping any of their money. All the units are leaking. They've got to be re-roofed. And I'm out there, I'm quoting them. I walk the units, tell them everything that needs to be done. Guess what? Nobody within the complex wants to spend the money. They want the cheapest bid. And I'm not saying that roofer's bad, but they're definitely cutting some corners. It's cheaper because they're not doing some things that need to be done. Beware, it's a big deal. If you're in an HOA, if you're in a complex, whether it be townhome, apartments, whatever it is, don't get stuck with someone else's problems. Just beware of that. You know, E-Verify is a real thing here in Florida, and we lost several of our workers because an awful lot of our guys on the roof are either from Central or South America. You know, very common throughout the construction industry, many of our workers are from Central and South America. And it's not that I won't hire local crews. I will. I just don't see them very often at all. I don't see them. It's not that they want more money. It's not that they're bad. It's not, we just don't see them at all. I mean, not available. Anyway, with that said, we are losing several of our workers. They're going across the border due to E-Verify. And E-Verify it's electronic verification, and the responsibility is now shifted to the employer that we need to verify that these people are actually legal, etc. And not to be political, whether you're for it or against it, it's just affected the industry as a whole. And what's frustrating is, okay, I'm happy to hire local people. Well, I don't know where they're at. We certainly have ads out, etc. And while we want trained, skilled people, and I'm willing to invest in those people to get them properly trained and give them the skills, they can obtain the aptitude it takes to do the profession. We just have a shortage. They're not available. And that's throughout all the trades across the board. Florida will continue to grow. Florida will continue to grow. I am from Indiana, and we will jokingly say, oh, everybody from Indiana is here. Well, that's not true. The people that moved here from Indiana, yes, there's a few people, a few families that moved down here to work. Well, the wages are lower than in the Midwest, than the East Coast, than the West Coast, etc. So they're not coming down in droves to work here. What they are coming down in droves for is retirement. The weather is better. There's no snow. There's no ice to drive on. You're not going to slip and fall, etc. And is everybody from Indiana coming here? No, it's the people that got a retirement plan, that saved their money, etc. And they came down here. So those people are still going to be here, and they do have the money to replace their roof, and they're all over the state of Florida. Whether I'm in Central Florida, I go to Miami, I go to Naples, whether I'm in the Panhandle, etc. We find those people, and no, it's not just Indiana, it's from all over the country. People come here to retire, and I just believe with E-Verify and things that are going on, it's going to push up the cost. It's supply and demand. And we still see building everywhere. I use that term loosely. You can look at statistics. Building has slowed, but they're still building. Still building, and talk about price of housing maintaining itself and so forth. But what happens is just supply and demand as far as the future of roofing goes. If I've got fewer employees to do the same amount of work, it's going to push the price up.